Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane. Tonight, Eden speaks to Ballet Nouveau Colorado Artistic Director Garrett Ammon to learn about the next production, Carry On, a collaboration with local band Paper Bird. But first, we make our first visit to Miners Alley Playhouse. For their production of Don't Dress for Dinner, Eden speaks to the stars and the director of this fast-paced farce.
Well, I'm delighted to say that we're finally making our first visit to Miners Alley Playhouse, and it's on the occasion of Don't Dress for Dinner, and we have with us the lead couple, and you're a couple in real life as well.
We are.
We are.
So did you become, you're engaged, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So did you get engaged before you were in this play, or is the saucy nature of this play what started your romance?
Well, that would be a better story, I think. No, we got engaged in August.
In August? Mm-hmm. And so now you're working together.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it actually seems to happen more often than not. We originally had met here and then started doing shows with each other shortly after that. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're sort of a power duo.
I wouldn't say that.
We won't delve too much into your private life so that you don't feel like Brad and Angelina. However, we will ask, what is it like to work on this kind of farce and then have time at home?
What's funny specifically about this show is all the infidelity running rampant throughout, the plot, which we don't take home with us, of course.
Did it prompt any discussions, though?
Not.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say not yet, but
No, it's always fun. People ask us, how do you like working together? But I think we work well together, and it's more fun, and we can carpool. That makes it easy too.
And we get to see each other, which is nice because we're both so busy with doing theater that if she's in something else, I don't ever really get the chance to see her, and vice versa. So by working together, we actually get that time to really sort of spend with each other, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, he gave us the sweet and romantic answer, so
Oh.
that's a good sign.
Yeah.
So now tell me about the play. You play a married couple.
Yes.
And you're married, yet you're leaving town. This is in the French countryside. You're leaving, and while she's away...
I'm bringing my mistress over because it's her birthday.
Very French.
Yes.
So now that we know the setting, tell me about what it's like to work in this venue, because that farce nature requires so much physical acting, the staging, and the humor, and it's so fast-paced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to do that work in this intimate setting?
It's a lot of fun in this space. The audience is, only 4 rows back, so I feel like they get the opportunity to really be involved. They're so close. They get to see everyone sweating and running around. The space is really conducive to comic work.
Mm-hmm.
They do great comic shows up here.
Yeah.
You've worked here a lot longer than I have, so.
Well, and and that creates a big challenge as well, that they're right there in your face. So you have to be on your A game pretty much every show.
Is there a moment where their reaction of being in the moment with this humor so loud that or so invasive that it can take you out of your work for the moment?
I think it would be false to say no. I'm sure. I mean,
I'm so glad you're being honest.
it's funny because we'll go backstage and be like, "Did you hear that person say this?" Or so definitely you're.
That's a pet peeve of mine. People in the theater forget that this is really happening, and it's not their living room, and so they can often, "Hey, what did you think?" And in this environment, that's even more intrusive. It's funny that you go backstage and talk about it.
Oh, I mean, we can hear people talking. Did you hear them say that line? And all the time.
Or like on Friday, a great example of that is at the end of Act 1, one of our other actresses comes out and says dinner is served, but she couldn't get her line out. Somebody in the front row had actually finished it for her. Oh! He knew it was coming, so he just
blurted it out.
Right out.
Just like they're watching television at home.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I guess the plus of that is it shows that you've been able to capture your audience.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know you've got them hook, line, and sinker at that point.
So aside from the fact that you're an unfaithful husband, what else do we need to know about this? I
She's
your
an unfaithful
your
wife, too.
characters.
I'm an unfaithful wife. So I think that's where the drama and comedy really starts rolling. He, is bringing his mistress, but I'm hooking up with my Mr. Lover. So
Your lover.
I love her.
My lover.
So, as typical farce setup, mistaken identities and lots of innuendo running rampant throughout the show.
And I do see that we have two very definite entrances and exits
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And maybe even a third there, right? The stairs.
And we also use our VOM entrances as well.
So I can imagine that there's no way this audience can't feel completely involved in this show.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
A great convention that our director, Rob Kramer, came up with is having a mirrored downstage center. So the characters are coming right down to the center with the front row audience sitting right there, and you're primping in the mirror, doing whatever. So they're really watching and they're really involved. It's pretty funny. And they get a little uncomfortable and they titter a little bit. They're right there,
And that's a very intimate moment as an actor, what your character would do in the mirror.
when no one else is around. Exactly. I think we play off that a little bit too.
Yeah.
And in a regular proscenium theater, that might be a little easier than having your audience literally.
Looking right at you. And it's a challenge, too, because I never really look out to where I'm going to, put my point of focus beforehand. So I always just turn and go, oh, I'm going to hit somebody right dead in the eyes. And thankfully, it's always right here. Because it is. I remember opening night, I would put the mirror way down there where it wasn't even centered because I was just kind of oh, where am I going with this? But you get used to it, so.
Well, it's very charming to see a married, well, almost married couple, an engaged couple, getting a chance to bring some fun work to audiences in Colorado. I really appreciate you taking the time before your show, sneaking out here to tell us a little bit about Dress for Dinner. Thank you so
Certainly.
much.
Thank you for coming out.
And I was also able to speak to the director of Don't Dress for Dinner, Robert Kramer. So, Robert, I really appreciate you coming in today, although you said you were coming in anyway for this performance, but this is our first chance to visit you since that hugely successful night at the Henrys for Miners Alley and for you, your production of A Picasso, and what was the other production?
Grace and Glory.
Grace and Glory.
Yeah, that was a strange night. We had I had directed a couple plays, 2 of the 5 plays that were up for Best Production. And so I had 2 completely different casts, 2 different assistant directors, and you want to get the recognition, but you sort of wanted those things to balance out. And fortunately they did, because both shows won more than one award, so it was terrific.
Big night for Miners Alley.
It was a big night for Miners Alley, and I think that it was a wonderful recognition for the smaller theaters around town that do very professional work in general, because the message was very clearly sent that it's not the size of your house, it's not the size of your budget. If you're doing real theater, if you're making a commitment to that art, the impact on the audience is the same.
And that was obviously borne out by all of your peers that night. And it was a change in the way the Henrys were even voted on that allowed that more inclusive result to happen.
I think so. I think a critic's job is a difficult one in this town, and the awards had been predominantly decided by critics, and it's hard for them, I think, as professionals as well, to compare a $17 million a year theater to a $400,000 a year theater. And I think that when they added more lay people that had done lots of work in the theater to get out and see all those shows, and they went on the emotional reaction, which gave us a chance to compete for the awards, and it was very gratifying.
And even in a show like the one you're directing now, Don't Dress for Dinner, even though it's a farce, the emotional reaction is what you're looking for in one way or another.
Well, it's actually trickier, I think, than with the drama, because you have to start with real characters, and there's a tendency to just start with gags, to just start with jokes. And if you do that, it's sort of like building a house on the beach. If you build it on a foundation of sand, it's going to come down. It doesn't matter how great the work is. And so we started this process very much the same way, with talking about characters and what they do and what they're going through and how they're impacted by each little event that happens in the show. And I think that that's what makes the farce so much fun, because the characters never stop being people that the audience would want to sit down have dinner with, or maybe see naked, or what have you.
Yes, that's true. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the way you approach this piece isn't that much different in terms of the foundation of it than any other play that you work on.
No, it really isn't, and I think that that's very much the key. And a lot of times, you as a director, you look for the opposite. When we did Grace and Glory, which is just a gut-wrenching drama, we kept trying to find the funny, find the light moments in it, and bring those out and highlight those, make it as much of a comedy as you can, because that's what makes it real, because that's what real life is. You know, real life isn't a tragedy, and real life isn't a comedy. It is this strange blend of both things. And so I think a lot of times you look for the opposite and let the actor's talent do the rest.
So after you had that foundation of the character for your cast, you had to layer upon it all of those mechanics of the farce. Tell me how you met that challenge.
Just you go faster. You go faster, you get bodier, you explore every bit that you can. And every night you tell the actors, I want you to find something new. I want you to bring some new idea. And then you nuance the ideas that they bring. And it builds. And with a cast like this, it's sort of like cooking with really wonderful ingredients. They're so talented. And all you have to do is not get in their way, and they will just bring it every night. It's just fun to watch.
You give them their roadmap and let them drive
That's
the
right.
car.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's helpful for me that I work as a director, as an actor, because I know what things are helpful to me when I'm acting. And a lot of times it's little images, little ideas. Key on this physicality. Think about this thought, or remember that this is the emotional subtext. And those little things can be a key to a scene. You know, maybe it's standing a certain way or posture. And you work with people long enough, you find out what their triggers are, and you just push it a little bit, and they go. And the actors in this show are just fantastic. They really are wonderful.
I know that in lots of productions, the setting can be very important to how the actors discover the play. And in a farce, with all of the entrances and exits and the comings and goings, it can be even more so in many ways. And yet, we see in this intimate theater all the work that's gone into the set. Tell me about how this designer approached this with you, and how you got to this sort of charming French countryside home.
Well, we work with Richard Pegg here predominantly. He's our major set construction artist, and he's fantastic. And he has done sets for us long enough. He knows this space well that he can really create the feel of a real home in our limited space. The funniest story probably with this set has been the swinging kitchen door. Because many of the exits, the actors are really, the character is really frustrated. And the actor gets so caught up in that they can hit that door pretty hard. And we've rehinged it now 3 times in our 3 weeks of shows. I'm hoping that the last one will finally hold. We'll see.
So that's one thing to look out for when you have a chance to come and
That's
see
right.
Don't Dress for Dinner, to see if the kitchen door stays.
That's right. Well, I think that most of our audiences are so taken with the costuming that they don't tend to look that much at the set. But
Well, tell me about the costuming, guys. I can see in the poster and in the preview we showed last week that there's definitely a tone to the costuming.
Well, we decided that this show had to be 50% off. But since we needed to charge the normal ticket prices, we just took 50% off the costumes and went forward. I know when we were actually getting the actors in the costumes the first time, one of our actors said that she had to hit the gym twice as hard because her costume is a sock.
Oh!
And she's not too far off, I don't think. So, but it's a lot of fun, and it has been just very liberating, I think, for the actors. To be able to get on stage and not have anything between them and the audience, no inhibitions.
Almost nothing.
Almost nothing. I think that's been a challenge that they've really, really embraced and really enjoyed having.
There had to be an element of trust for the actor to lay it bare, as it were, to perform in not just with very little clothing on, but in this particular environment where the audience is not able to be blocked out.
Yeah.
That trust had to be with you and the rest of the cast. How did you build that trust with your
Well,
cast?
it really helps that I've worked with all the cast except for one of the actors before this. And again, I think that people would consider me an actor's director, that I really take into
What does that
account.
mean?
You know, I think it goes back sort of to football terms. You know, you have coaches that come in and are very much tyrants, and you have coaches that are considered to be players' coaches. And I think that I'm an actor's director because I have been in their shoes. I am in their shoes. And I know what they want from a director, I think. I like to think that I know that. And what I can do to help them. And I keep their needs and their sensibilities foremost in my mind when I'm trying to think of how we're going to do things. But 5 of the 6 actors I've worked with before, several of them many, many times. And so there is that feeling of trust. And I've acted with all of them. And so it's sort of old home week here. And it begins with that kind of a trust.
There's a lot of that in many of the theaters in Denver, in that our theatrical community here is rich and vibrant and diverse, but it's actually, when you think of it, kind of small. You all tend to work with one another in various venues.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a couple of reasons. One, you have to be a little crazy to do this business, and 2, you're only as good as your last show. And so the people that can produce again and again keep getting the work. They keep getting the directing gigs or the acting gigs. And so, you know, you end up knowing everybody. There are obviously tiers to the community where you have the equity actors that work more at specific places and the non-equity work at others. But there's more crossover than you would think. And you know, there are actors in this town that I've worked with since they were 14 in my young adult theater company that I had many years ago, and that are still working. And so it's, you know, I think that it's a family of sorts, and it makes a lot of these projects easier and more rewarding because you're coming home. You're coming home to a family.
Well, this offering by the community or family at Miners Alley runs through when?
We run through February 27th, and I think that you better get your tickets now because we're filling up very quickly.
And we
It's gonna
hold
be
just
sold out.
over 100 people here.
We can actually put in 140,
140?
but no one is ever more than 20 feet from the stage. So it's a very intimate setting. It's a great way to view live theater because you get the nuance of the performance. You know, it's not like you're in some big crowd where you have to get the binoculars out and try and follow what's going on. You see it. We have an adage here that you can't act here. You just have to be here. You can't put up a front because people are 3 feet from you and they'll see through it. And I think that it's a wonderful tribute to our actors that they seem so real to all of our patrons that they'll often come out and talk to them afterwards as if they're still in character and say, well, weren't you just furious with him when he did this? And so it's a wonderful venue. It's a wonderful place to work.
It is. It's charming, and I know that they'll be wise to take your advice and get their tickets early to come and see Don't Dress for Dinner at Miners Alley Playhouse.
Thank you so much for coming out to see us, and I hope you get to see the show as well.
Thank you.
Next, we go back to Ballet Nouveau Colorado to learn about their brand new concert and some special partnerships for Carry On with Garrett Ammon, the artistic director.
Well, the new production is called Carry On, and it is a collaboration with the Denver band Paperbird.
So are we getting to see them perform with the company, or is it just their music?
They're live on stage with us. It's actually, Paperbird is a 7-member band, and they've actually added 2 more band members for this production.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be 9 band members on stage with all the dancers. So it's going to be an exciting show.
That seems to be a habit now with Ballet Nouveau Colorado to have their collaborators in the performance with them. How did you find this band?
I actually, the first time I learned about Paperbird was in 2009, and it was when both Paperbird and Ballet Nouveau Colorado were in the Best of Denver Westward newspaper edition, and I'm always on the lookout for new music and always looking for new things to inspire me. So when I was reading through it and I read the story about Paperbird and read this description of their music that was so eclectic and had all these elements that I love so much, I immediately went out and bought every recording I could find. And
They'll be glad to hear that you went out and bought all their recordings.
and I just fell in love with it. So I was like, gosh, I would love to work with them one day. Well, I think about 6 months later, we were both featured in 5280 magazine, and I think on opposing sides of the same page. Even I can't remember, but they
was
were
a little
like,
hint from the universe.
yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. I was like, okay, this has happened for a second time, and I'm just gonna get in touch with them. So I emailed them through their website and kind of went on and on about my thoughts and so forth. And I pressed the send button, and then I immediately went, I don't know if I should have done that. They're gonna think I'm crazy. But a day or two later, I heard back from them, and they said, yeah, we would love to talk and see what possibilities there are.
Are there any new pieces they've written for this concert, or is it all music that their fans will already be familiar with?
I think that's the really exciting thing, is that they decided to write all new music.
All new music?
All new music. So a couple of the pieces might have made it into things here and there when they were trying stuff out, but none of them were ever complete songs. Most of it has been written in the past many months. They decided they wanted to score the whole thing new. So Paperbird fans have a lot of exciting things in store for them.
Another thing that's unique about this concert, not just the collaboration with a local set of musicians creating new work just for you, is you have another new relationship that sort of leads right along with what we were talking about, being that sense of community and how you fit into the overall community in Colorado. Tell me about this unique relationship.
We started a program this season called Community Sundays, and the idea is to kind of take advantage of the things that we do inherently because we are a performing arts organization. We rent a theater, we gather people into one place, we do advertising and marketing and all these things. We invest funds in these things specifically to achieve our mission. But there are many human services nonprofits that would never invest money in those kind of things because they're investing their money in helping individuals with specific personal needs. And so we saw an opportunity there. And so what we decided to do is create this program where we can take one performance from each of our production. We have one performance that is that raises money for that organization. So 50% of every ticket sold to that performance, that money goes back to a human services nonprofit.
That was 50%, not 15%, 50%.
Correct. Half of the ticket price. We decided that if we're going to do this, we should really, again, it's about collaboration and it's about really sharing that. And I felt like there was no better way to do that than saying, here's half the money from this evening. And so coming to that performance, you're not only supporting one nonprofit organization, you're supporting two in a really substantial way. And with this performance, it's S.A.M.E Cafe. S.A.M.E stands for So All May Eat. And they actually are very connected to Paperbird. Paperbird goes there and volunteers at their cafe. And so that's one important aspect of it too, that we don't just randomly choose a human services nonprofit but that it's somehow connected to the
You
entire
have a
process.
relationship with
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of getting to meet Livy and Brad, the founders, and they're amazing what they're doing. They're providing meals to any individual who wants to walk into their restaurant for whatever they can choose to pay for that meal. So there's no cash register. You come in, get your lunch, you eat it, and then you make a donation on the way out of whatever you can afford. And if you don't have any money, then they just ask that you volunteer in the kitchen for a while afterwards. So they're feeding people in a very respectful way. It's a beautiful cafe. It's and so you get to sit down and have a wonderful gourmet meal and contribute whatever you like to it. So this is our opportunity to contribute more to that incredible vision.
So it's two incredibly inspiring partnerships for this one concert.
Absolutely.
Carry on.
Yes.
Great. I can't wait to see the culmination of all this work and the collaboration and the ongoing growth that you and the company have really brought to all of Colorado. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.